I'd now like to welcome Dr. Madhav Chavan to moderate our first panel discussion for today. Our panel discussion will feature eminent panelists, including Mr. Ashish Dhawan from Central Square Foundation, Rohini Nilekani from Arghyam, Vineet Nayyar from Sampark Foundation, and as mentioned, will be moderated by Dr. Madhav Chavan. Over to you, Madhav. You're on mute, Madhav.
Okay. So welcome to my fellow panelists. As I've assured them, I'm going to say the least. They've just seen the findings of the survey, and maybe it's a bit too much to catch everything together. But as far as I can see, and I've seen the reports, basically what it seems like is that the country didn't, the education, so to say, the school stopped, but children seem to be doing something. But from the findings, it is clear that the poorest, the ones with the least number of smartphones or whatever, that category of children, government school children with poor access to digital technology are going to have a tough time or are having a tough time. But all that I can keep saying, this reminds me somehow of 2005 when we did the first ASER survey. It was not clear what was going to emerge out of it. We were sort of wondering what is going to come out of the survey. And then when we finished the survey, we said, aha, so learning levels are a big problem. It's not like we knew that before. So with this survey also, I don't know what I was expecting, but that's the first question I'm going to toss at Rohini. I'm sure everybody's been watching the scenario, reading about things and so on. We are all sitting at home and then wondering what's going to happen to education. So from what you've seen in the survey results, what did you expect and what surprised you in this survey, or what didn't surprise you? Rohini, it's you.
Thank you, Madhav. Namaste, everybody. I hope you're all safe wherever you are. First of all, I just want to say, Madhav, hearty congratulations to ASER once again, to the whole team for being, as usual, pioneering, as usual, innovative, and as usual, thorough in whatever is being done. So this survey was a surprise. I heard of it only recently. And it's a marvelous survey because for once, this is not about learning outcomes so much as the process of learning. And to me, hearing all of this sounds like the heartbeat of a nation desperate to keep its children learning at all costs. It's probably the sound of resilience, or what resilience probably looks like. And so I'm very excited because 2-3 things became very clear, just popped out at me. One is, of course, and the summary of the report was already covered all these points. But first of all, as you said, we as a nation have to take stock of the digital device and divide and do whatever we can to address it. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about it. It has to be treated with the utmost urgency. And because this is not the first pandemic, nor will it be the last, or there may be other disruptions. So school may not be as stable as it has been for all these decades. So we have to do something for the children left behind, because it will always be a combination of physical and virtual. Number two, the best news is we always knew that education was too important to be left to educators alone. And this coming together of the samaj, right, starting from the house, the parents, the siblings, cousins who we don't know, and the community. 70% of the school said the community had come forward to help. I mean, this is fantastic news. All our school systems can get so much support. So it seems to me that definitely the aspiration for education is internalized. We knew that. This is demonstrating it. We have data for it. And now we can see that parents especially clearly have the will to help their children. Now we must, this is a fantastic opportunity to now also build their skills to engage with their children. And it's so doable because there's so many creative ways we could do that. the dream that we were all waiting for, Mother, 25 years of Pratham, etc., that we will have finally a generation of children who are not first generation school goers, right? Most of the children's parents have at least some education. And this is the moment we've been waiting for. This is the moment to capitalize on. So this is all the good news that I found from the survey. And last point, the digital age is here. It's no use being technophobic. We have to make technology work for us. We have to make technology work for children. We have to develop a digital pedagogy, which doesn't mean that children stick to screens all the time. But digital allows you to give access to any time, anywhere, just in time access to children who may be stuck for various reasons, like we saw in this pandemic. So it's a call to action to develop a digital pedagogy. And that's different from just the textbook being shown on the screen, because the light, just as the light bulb was different from 1,000 candles. I see many, many opportunities here. I find it exciting. Everything is not good news, but there's so much good news that we can unleash a lot of creativity. So those are my first thoughts.
Thank you. Ashish, it's your turn now. Rohini has focused on the community parental angle and all that, and has touched upon the challenges of the digital age. What are your thoughts?
So firstly, Madhav, I think whilst there's a lot of excitement around potential opportunities for the future, this is a terrible year for children in that most children are being left behind. They're going to lose the better part of the year. And we need to seriously think about, when we're going to open schools physically, because we cannot keep children away for too long. I find it kind of surprising that we don't have more of a debate in India around when schools ought to reopen and what the sequence ought to be, because most places in the world, actually primary schools are being prioritized in terms of reopening, as opposed to just looking at board exams and prioritizing secondary schools, because those kids can potentially learn on their own, etc. So that's number one. I think it's a very, very difficult situation, and we need to think about, how we create an accelerated learning program, remediate children as they get back to school, and when we reopen school. I think in terms of the findings of the survey, I think it's a mixed bag. The fact that only 1/3 of children access some material other than the textbook in any given week, it just shows you that the digital divide is here to stay for a while, whilst smartphone penetration increase, but also the school systems are still not fully equipped to do this. I mean, we saw the variation between a Punjab and Kerala and a Bihar on the other hand, and some of the other states. And so many states are yet to get their act together. And I think we should use this moment to actually make that happen. Two is, I think we knew this, that WhatsApp is the medium. I mean, there are 400 million WhatsApp users in India. And we shouldn't look at penetration at an individual level, i.e. 400 million divided by 1.35 billion, but instead at the household level. And we know that household penetration of smartphones and WhatsApp is quite significant. So despite the fact that we need to take care of children who don't have access and need an omni-channel approach, I think WhatsApp first is what we need to look at. I think the other thing that's come out, which Rohini brought out, is that parents are finally engaged with their children to a much greater extent. All of us always focus on school effects and what we can do with school. And I know Pratham has done some work in the past, but very little work has been done in terms of household effects, which we know research shows are more important than school effects. And so how can parents be more engaged? How can we get children to do more stuff at home, whether it's reading or activities or worksheets, etc. So developing this home-based curriculum and getting parents more involved, I think is critical. What was surprising, I think, from the survey is that fathers are actually quite involved, maybe because they have access to the smartphone. But it was a positive surprise that fathers were as involved as mothers, and elder sibling was as involved as either of the parents. So that to me was a positive surprise, that we don't just need to reach out to the mothers, but the fathers are also an important constituent to look at. And I think going forward, coming out of this, there are some real opportunities. I do want to point to a couple of examples. One is, I think as far as teachers are concerned, smartphone penetration is almost ubiquitous across the country. We've seen examples like Teacher App, which is an organization which created 75 odd mini courses for teachers, and over 1 million teachers have taken 5+ courses now of the Teacher App, and many states are now embedding this. So I think there could be a blended way to do teacher professional development, to create professional learning communities, to make resources available to teachers. So I think that's one opportunity going forward. A second is this channel with the parents. Now that we have database of parents and many teachers are now connected with parents, how can we on an ongoing basis going forward keep parents engaged and involved, whether it's through text message, WhatsApp, IVRS, on an ongoing basis, and integrate technology into the teaching learning process, but also get parents more involved. And then in terms of Diksha or other platforms, I think we've seen a huge spurt recently, but also I think the fact that quality content is getting created or stimulated in the vernacular, because there's been a real need right now. So one example is a project we worked on with Google called Tic Tac Learn, and literally just started it, and now 7 million viewers per month on YouTube and 2 million on Diksha, very, very quickly. So I think there's some new possibilities coming out, but my bigger concern is just the fact that we have lost the better part of a year, and what do we do as children get back to school, and when will they get back to school? We need more of a conversation around that.
Let me come to Vineet. Vineet, you've invested a lot of time, personal money, your big organization, Sampark Foundation, working on this. Yes, I certainly want to know what surprised you. 35% only out of the people who had smartphones seem to have got, those who had phones got the material. And it seems to me, just an observation, that what came through, what was really useful, was the long-term investment that has preceded the digital age, so to say. The fact that parents are educated is an investment from several decades. The fact that textbooks are available, I'm really happy that the many governments actually sent textbooks home. Parents, the teachers seem to have gone home and given textbooks. If all that has happened because of a strong base, good, bad, ugly, but that base was there, and that came in handy. Do you think we responded almost spontaneously to the challenge, all the governments and the NGOs and so on, with digital aids? But do we not need to sustain this a little better, make it stronger, so that there's more thought behind it rather than a knee-jerk reaction of what we need to do? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much. And first, I'd like to point out two heroes in this story. First is, I'm so happy that you started this session by congratulating all the people in Pratham, the employees of Pratham, who made this happen not only this year in very troubled times, but also over the course of many years. And it is so often, especially in India, we forget the employees and the effort it takes to produce a spectacular report like this one, like the previous ones that you do. So that's the first hero I would like to congratulate from my side also. I think the second hero which stood out for me were the teachers. Not only did I observe through our own program in 6 states, but also in the survey, that the teachers have been in the forefront of not only the education challenge, but also simultaneously handling the COVID challenge. Most of the surveys were done by them, most of the schools, and the remoteness of people was handled by them. That's the second hero which is standing up in this survey. There are a few things I agree with what Ashish has said, what Rohini has said. And I'd like to add a few things which, Madhav, you have rightly pointed out. A few good news and a few concerns which I walk away from the survey with worry. The good news, one is that 36% mobile penetration has gone up to 62% in 1 year's time. So I would see that this going up to 80-90% next year. So the penetration of the mobile revolution, which has been accelerating, continues to accelerate despite COVID, which is a great news. So that's the first good news which I saw. The second good news is that the government cranked up their engine and reached 80% of the textbook to the schools. This is phenomenal. I mean, this is, and especially because the sample size of 52,000 households is not small, and this is across all the 30 states. This is phenomenal, and I think the government should be congratulated on that. 75% of the children say they are getting help. Again, as Rohini pointed out, that's phenomenal. However, where is the concern? And Madhav, you rightly pointed that out, that if 62% have access to mobile, but only 33% got some learning material, that means that the quality of learning material which we are throwing is not good. And there is where my concern is, and that goes to the fact that 67% of the people, they say they have access to WhatsApp, but they don't say they got any learning material. And I also agree, there is where I have a slight disagreement with Ashish, that WhatsApp may be a good attempt to try and reach the content to them, but I don't think when you do the ASER learning outcome survey, it will show a steep drop that the WhatsApp, which is any one-way communication of distributing content, doesn't result into learning. Learning is an engagement. There, I agree with Ashish. What he was saying is that we need to forward develop technology where we engage technology in a two-way process so that it replicates the classroom as much as possible, rather than feel happy of distributing textbooks or distributing content on WhatsApp or putting whatever we wish on new content. That's a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition to drive learning. And therefore, that is the reason I see 67% of them saw WhatsApp, but still believe that only 33% of them saw some kind of learning improvement, which is there. The data which surprised me, and I thought that should have been a little more, is the 20% coming from broadcast media, because the government put a lot of resources, Jharkhand put, Haryana put, UP put, in broadcasting this over Doordarshan, and that surprises me. That means there is some tweaking which needs to be done. Once again, it goes back to my idea that just broadcasting content, whether it is Doordarshan or through digital, is not going to result into learning outcome. Now, while all this data is pointing out to the right thing, there are 2 or 3 slices of data I like to see when I read the report. One, my concern is that the enrollment which you talked about, I think the girls' enrollment in school will dramatically drop. That is one trend I would see. I'd like to see when I see the report in detail, did that happen? I hope it did not. Number 2, private school to government school migration, you've already indicated that is happening in a lot of states. Number 3, I would see whether the urban school children are moving to rural school children. And that is my big worry. If urban school children enrolled in government schools in urban, where the infrastructure like Delhi or Bombay or Calcutta is much better, and if that population is migrating, at least the family is migrating, even if the father or the mother comes back and works in the city, and the children are migrating to Bihar or to Jharkhand or to Chhattisgarh, to those rural schools where the infrastructure and the education quality is not enough, that will have further negative impact on our learning outcomes. So I will be very interested when you slice and dice the data and when I see the report to see if that trend is happening. Overall, I would believe that you have put a spotlight on something which is very critical, and I congratulate all of you, including the leadership team at Pratham, that you are masters in putting a torchlight on data which we need to see. We need to now take this data and slice and dice it so that we can honestly look at this data and drive action so that the learning of these children improve. The attempt is there, the reach is there to a certain extent, but we should not lose focus on what ASER 19 pointed out, that the learning outcome in this country needs significant rebooting. So congratulations once again, and keep doing the good work you're doing.
You're on mute, Madhav.
sorry. So we're going to run out of time. So what I have to do now is I'm going to allot 2 minutes per person to make final comments before you even got started. But Vineet, thank you for saying all those things. Let me assure you that it seems to me, and that's one of the good news is, so far, girls, boys, nobody's saying they're dropping out. We are saying that they are not enrolled in school. We'll have to wait till the schools actually reopen and see what happens, which is a very interesting thing. I was very happy to see that. The worry that was, by the thousands people, children will drop out of school, that doesn't seem to come through this survey. That's one part. Now, let me just say before I hand it over to you guys again, um, you know, continuous monitoring of this and what we've done as ASER once in a year or once in 2 years, I think needs a much bigger alliance. And I'm going to appeal to you guys. You are the leaders of education and philanthropy in this country. We are, by comparison, we are small. But I'm going to appeal to you that maybe we should all come together and think how we can create a much larger community-based, citizen-led monitoring mechanism of the status of education in India. That's something that we should do later. So feel free, 2 minutes each. And where shall we start? We started with Rohini earlier. Ashish, first turn. 2 minutes to you.
Yeah, Madhav. So I think, again, great work. And I agree with you that, I think what you've shown through this phone-based survey is that maybe going forward, we need a way of sort of some high-frequency monitoring on this. So one is we need a plan. I think we have a lot of data coming out of this, and we need to work with state governments. The whole ecosystem needs to come together to think about how can we do this better. Obviously, state governments did their best, NGOs did their best, but there's a lot of lessons learned. Some states have done it very well. Some NGOs have done some things amazingly well. I think let's put our attention to culling out these best practices, creating a plan. I think this data is very powerful. That look, at the end of the day, people are relying on the smartphone, and that they're not relying on passive media. I mean, frankly, I'm actually delighted that broadcast TV did not work, because all evidence shows that, frankly, broadcast TV is not going to lead to any improvement in learning. At least with the smartphone, there's the opportunity to create more gamified solutions, to have two-way engagement, etc. I would just say that if we can work towards a plan, if we can get more state governments on board, if we can think of a more structured home-based curriculum where parents are more involved and there's a link between the school, teachers, and parents, and it's happening on a regular basis and it becomes embedded into the system. If we can rethink teacher professional development, going forward, those seem like the two biggest opportunities. And of course, learning apps for children, beyond just watching videos and doing some questions and activities, more structured learning apps like Chimple and others to be developed, which I think can really take children to a pathway to really improve learning outcomes. So while I'm very despondent in terms of this year, I think there's a lot of important insights from this report. And I hope, as you said, we can come together to really make this happen over the next 3 years in a more organized manner.
Thank you. Vineet, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I already said what I wanted to say, and I 100% support with you that at least from Sampak Foundation point of view, I am committed to working with whoever it takes to try and improve the learning within these children. We are working with in 6 states. That's not good enough. I think we need to reach more children as fast as possible. We will also like to lend hands, and I like to offer to try and use this report to shine a torchlight on some of the states who may not be doing well by giving examples of the states who are doing well. And I also agree with Ashish that we need to also invest in a better digital experience for the children. Could be an app, could be whatever it is, and not be just happy in either broadcasting on Doordarshan or giving textbook or just doing content. We need to be more hungry. We need to be more unhappy. We need to be more dissatisfied to make the investments which are required, which could be adopted by the state governments to try and improve the lives of these children. So we are committed. We are happy to unite with whoever it is, because our children, a very large number of them, and you guys have pointed it out, need help and need help today.
Thank you. Rohini, your concluding thoughts. After you, we just go to launch. Ajay Piramal is waiting in the wings.
Thank you. So my 2 minutes, I would say, first of all, see, ASER is always from the beginning a portal into a national conversation, right? So, and it's not like you do one ASER and things just fall into place, right? It took so long for after the first ASER for people to understand, oh my God, there's a problem of learning outcomes and we need to do something about it. People went from opposition to acceptance to action. The same thing will happen now, that perhaps you can do many more things even though children are out of school. And I hear you all, there might be learning loss. I know ASER is going to do more surveys. Of course, there will be some learning loss. We have to come together as a society to stem that loss and strengthen the children for the next academic year. All that will happen. But in the meantime, let's focus on the opportunity that we have. Let's use this data to begin a robust conversation on blended learning, on using digital, on using the home, on using things out of school and in school together. We have to get that every last child, the last child who is left out, has to be included. I see this as a serious opportunity for inclusion. Samaj Bazaar Sarkar working together. Remember, this survey also shows something great, that teachers, of course, who have been at the forefront of everything, have also used this time to acquire new digital skills to themselves learn. Look at the Diksha number. There have been 640 million learning sessions on Diksha, and they are continuing to grow at a very rapid pace in the last 6 months. There has been 2 million teachers trained just using the Diksha platform of the government. There is content on that platform in 30 plus Indian languages. As I said, we need to develop the digital pedagogy. We need to come together better, but it's the start of a journey, and it can be a great journey to fulfill the goal, Pratham's mission. Every child in school and learning well, but every child in school and anywhere and learning well. Madhav, this is an opportunity. Congratulations to ASER for starting a very new and very, very important conversation. We will help as much as we can in any way we can. We have to get every child on the learning path.
Thank you, Rohini. Thank you, Ashish and Vineet, for joining and staying within the time limits that were imposed on us. Actually, would have loved to talk much more. Devyani, over to you.